All right. It's part of the magnificent performances and the way in which he conducts music. He makes great records, and he also does everything from recording. He's a frontman. Um, and he's a singer. He's known for his psych soul band, the Monophonics, and he does everything with his music from beginning to end. So I want to welcome and bring on for you tonight's special guest, Kelly Finnigan. Kelly, how are you?
I'm doing well, Mel. Thank you for having me on tonight.
It's a pleasure. I want everybody to know if Kelly looks like he's in the dark, it's because he's on tour and he's making the best of the circumstances to try to get me on the show with everybody tonight.
Of
So
course, yeah. I'm in a van in an alley behind a music club, which is like very musician of me.
yes, extremely musician of you, you
Yeah.
know. So, um, Kelly, let's start off by talking a little bit. This is one of the things I like to do at the very beginning, is for you to tell everybody, for example, where you are tonight, where you're performing, what's going on in the studio, what kind of concerts are coming up, what can people expect from the Monophonics and from you.
Well, I'm currently in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and this is about show number 6 of a little quick 10-day run where we're playing 8 shows from, starting in St. Louis and ending in New York. So we're in Pittsburgh tonight at the Thunderbird, which is a really great club in Pittsburgh. And we've played here before. It's a cool place. Good to be back in Pennsylvania. And just, the tour has been going well. We played St. Louis, Chicago, Cincinnati, Indianapolis. We played Cleveland last night at the infamous Beachland Ballroom, and we're here in Pennsylvania. Tomorrow we'll be at the Black Cat in Washington, D.C., and then we'll be at the Brooklyn Bowl in Brooklyn, New York. So right now, just focused on putting on great shows every night for people, and, been a lot always as there is going on with Monophonics. Uh, you know, we put out a record last year, which we're still kind of promoting in certain markets like Pittsburgh, because we haven't been to Pittsburgh since we released the record. So, and yeah, getting ready to head back into the studio next year to, write and record some more music. So, and we have some already exciting shows planned for next year. I can't really discuss the details of those, but definitely excited to do some shows with an artist and singer we really love and respect. So, per usual, just staying busy.
Wonderful, Kelly. That's great. Let's start off at the very beginning. I just found out some things about you tonight that I didn't know. I was wondering why there was very little about you before 2000, and that's because you had just graduated high school, which I didn't realize. so, so why don't you tell us about how you got interested in music? How did it happen?
Well, it all started when, well, it really goes back to just the household that I grew up in, which was a very musical household. My father became a professional musician in the 60s and started a band in the Midwest out of Wichita, Kansas called the Surfs. That's SERFS. And in
Okay.
1968, they got signed to Capitol by the great Tom Wilson. And
Wow.
I encourage people to check out who Tom Wilson was. Is very important to rock and roll and folk and singer songwriters in the 60s, like Bob Dylan and Simon and Garfunkel. But my dad's band was an R&B band, and they set up shop at the record plant for the first ever sessions in 1968. And in that same room at that same time, Jimi Hendrix was recording Electric Ladyland. So my father
Wow.
was there for the making of that record, and he appeared on Electric Ladyland, playing organ on 2 songs called Rainy Day Dream Away and Still Raining, Still Dreaming. So that
Wow.
was my father's big introduction to the music business outside of being in bands and touring the country. And he went on to have an incredible career from the 60s into, the early 2020s. And so, I grew up around, people coming over for dinner like Etta James and Jill Walsh, and going to
Wow.
concerts and seeing, Bonnie Raitt or Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young or Taj Mahal or Michael McDonald or Tower of Power. The list goes on and on. We could do a whole interview about my father. So that just gives everybody an inkling of like the house I grew up in. It was full of music. It was full of rhythm and blues. It was full of jazz. It was full of great music. You know what I mean? It was really, I grew up in a household where really black music was the music that was played the most. No Beatles records, no Zeppelin, no Creedence, nothing like that. It's like Ray Charles, Jimmy Smith, Mahalia Jackson,
Wow.
you know what I mean? Bud Powell, people like that. So I was very lucky in the education I got as a youngster. And, that turned into my own passion, as it does when you become a teenager. And I found hip hop. And I found, the DJ culture and sampling and record collecting and all the things that come with that scene. So it was really cool to grow up in the environment I did and then really find something that spoke to me, being that, you wouldn't expect, as much as I love the music I grew up around, of course you're going to gravitate towards something that speaks a little bit more towards your age and your way of thinking and the way the world's working. So I really became engulfed in hip hop music and bought a lot of it, listened to it constantly. And because of hip hop music, it went full circle and I found a lot of great jazz records, funk records, soul records, rock records being sampled by these artists. And then I fell back in love with these original recordings from the 60s and 70s. So that's really a quick kind of blurb about my background and what got me into music.
Did you sing? Did you play an instrument?
No, I didn't. I started playing keyboards in about 2001, 2002. Of course, my father was a very accomplished keyboard player and very good. So I was able to go to him and obviously ask questions and have him help me kind of figure things out. But I wasn't ever formally trained. I taught myself playing along to records and kind of, working my way through things. And then I didn't start singing till I was about 30 years old. That came late.
Wow.
That was like intimidating. And my father was like, you know, I know it might sound biased, but it's really true. My father was usually the best singer in the room. And that doesn't come from him. That comes from Etta James. That's an Etta James quote. Etta
Wow.
James really, really thought so highly of my father. And so did someone like Jerry Wexler. And for people who don't know who Jerry Wexler was,
I
that's who
guess so.
signed Ray Charles.
Yeah.
That's who produced Aretha Franklin. And he produced a lot of more big hits. He was responsible for bringing Stax and Otis Redding into the Atlantic thing. So Jerry's a legend. Jerry called my dad in 1975 and invited him down to Muscle Shoals to make a record. So that's what I mean is like, I grew up around a very, very good singer. And it
Okay.
was very intimidating. And to be quite honest, I never really wanted to sing. And anybody who understands how it works with music, if it doesn't call you necessarily, it's hard to really want to embrace it. Because when it comes to art and being creative and expressing yourself, there really has to be something pulling you there in order for for you to really want to do this. So I wasn't interested in singing until later in life, but I'm glad I started.
Well, let's talk about when you started to play the keyboards. Obviously, you're a composer.
Yep.
So how do you write music if you don't play an instrument? Or did you start
Well,
writing
I
after
wasn't
you?
really writing much there then.
Okay.
That kind of started off with the process of learning the keyboards. And as I started to learn about playing, I started to learn about song structure and, chords and voicings and all the things that come with, chords and song structure, melody, harmony.
How did you learn
Um,
to play? Did you?
I just really played along to records that I liked.
Okay.
Jazz records, obviously anybody who gets into the keyboards is going to gravitate towards people like Herbie Hancock, Bill Evans, Jimmy Smith, Jimmy McGriff, Jack McDuff, George Duke, Duke Pearson, obviously Stevie Wonder,
Hmm.
Not Minnie Riperton, but Patrice Rushen. I mean, I could go on and on with
Yeah, I
keyboard
get you.
players that I
I
listen
get
to
the.
and love.
I catch the drift.
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, just listening to records, playing along with records. And as I said, if I ever got really stumped or I felt like I was trying to figure something out that was maybe a little more advanced than where I was, I can always go to my father and say, what is this crazy chord that Herbie Hancock's playing? And he's like, oh, that's a minor 7 with a sharp 9, and he's like adding an 11, and it was just like,
Right.
but all these things, like anything else, come over time as long as you stick with them, and you really want to learn and get better.
So what was the turning point around 2000 or shortly after that when you decided this can be a career?
I think it was just the fact that I was not willing to accept failure, and I knew that I was really like, the only time I was truly happy or felt good was when I was working on music or making music or doing music. Having little jobs, even though I was lucky enough to grow up around Los Angeles, where there's a ton of great recording studios. I got to work in a couple of the best studios in LA, including the Village Recorders in Santa Monica and what used to be Western Recorders, where like Pet Sounds was done and a lot of other famous records. Those were jobs I had working at these studios, and they were amazing to be around those environments, but they were still jobs. And until about 2008, I'd say, when I didn't have to have a job anymore, is when it started to feel like I always knew I could do it and it was going to happen. But as anybody knows, it's just the big question is like, when? So I
Yeah.
think it was around 2008 where I thought, well, I think I can make this work and make this sustain. Hopefully, as each year passes, I can get better and make more money and become more successful. And, lucky enough, that's kind of been the case. So I'm very blessed in that regard.
Well, terrific. That's great. My next question to you would be, when you started, you played keyboards, and how did you hook up with the Monophonics, and how did you hook up with Terry Cole?
Well, I found the Monophonics because people were talking around about them around the Bay Area. And I moved from Los Angeles up to the Bay Area around 2007. And, being a musician, you start to kind of poke around and see what the scene is like and see what's going on. And I heard about two bands, the Grease Traps from Oakland and the Monophonics from San Francisco. And I was working on a project at the time for a Japanese label for another project of mine that was just kind of a studio project. And I needed sax and trumpet. So I found Monophonics horn players, which at the time were Alex Baky and Ryan Scott. Alex plays sax and Ryan plays trumpet. I reached out to them, explained the project, and they were nice enough to come down and do the recording. And we hung out for a little bit and became friendly. From that point, I kind of was just around, and they knew about me. I knew about them. And around 2010, their keyboard player at the time moved to the East Coast. So they were kind of trying to figure out what the next move was with a keyboard player. And because we knew each other, they had called me to just kind of come in to be a sub. Like, hey, can you just come in and play these 3 shows in Tahoe and, somewhere else, two shows in Tahoe and a show in Reno. So that's really how it happened, is I came in as a sub to just play some shows and help them out. And I never left.
Okay. I met you just after the release of a song that to this day I must have played 1,000 times. It's yesterday.
Like yesterday, yeah.
Like yesterday. I'm sorry.
Yep.
And at that time I was managing a vocalist who was moving up to the A level, and
Cool.
and I came across your song, like yesterday, and I wanted her to record it. I apologize. I wanted her to put it into a repertoire for her live performances.
Oh, yeah.
So I contacted you, and you were very kind and said, sure, go ahead. If she wants to, do it on stage. And then you and I didn't contact each other, and I had another person on my show, Alex Harris.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Alex Harris is, like, to me, he's the Al Green of the 21st century.
Oh, he's amazing. He's an incredible singer.
Totally amazing. So I had him on, and it wasn't until afterwards I was going back. Like I had made him the featured artist on the radio station. Also, I see on his jacket cover it says featuring the Monophonics. And I
Yeah.
said, "Oh my God!" So I called Alex and I said, "How did this happen?" I told him I knew you basically. I had talked with you, and he said that his brother had introduced you to him, and you know you became the band on his album.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. We had been in contact with his brother, who's a great producer, and we had gotten word that one of the artists that he produces enjoys our music, and that camp kind of like really digs what we do. So I think when Alex was getting ready to record some things, his brother, reminded him of what we do and how much they like the music. So yeah, that was very cool to work with Alex. He's a very talented artist, and that was a
Yeah.
good experience.
Yeah, well, then I got back in contact with you and asked you to be on the show. That's,
Yeah,
you know,
exactly. Such a
so
small world, right?
it really is. It really is. So tell me a little bit more about Terry Cole and
Yeah,
Coal
so
Mine Records.
once I joined Monophonics and we got going, obviously it was a band that existed, and now there was a new member, and we were starting to. The band really was an instrumental band when I joined, and slowly we introduced more and more vocals into the set. So as that became more of an important part of the show and the band sound, we went into the studio and we cut this song like yesterday. And right at the time of cutting that song, probably about 2 weeks before, I was searching around online for music, as one does. And I came across a 45 of a band called Ikebe Shakedown from Brooklyn. I didn't know they were from Brooklyn. I just saw Ikebe Shakedown, and the label was Coal Mine Records. I really loved the way the record sounded and felt, and I looked more into what Coal Mine Records was. And it happened to be a record label out of Ohio. So I contacted them, and then Terry, got back to me, and I explained who I was, and I explained what I was doing, and just said, "Hey, we're going to go into the studio and cut this song. Can I send it to you when we're done? And if you like it, maybe we could do a 45 like you did with Ikebe." And he said, "Yeah, that sounds great." And I want to remind people, today Coal Mine is an extremely established company that sells records all around the world and has incredible artists that are recognized on so many levels. But this was right at the beginning. This was 2011, like right at the beginning of 11. And Terry had only had the company for a few years, and he'd only put out a few 45s at that point. And once we did the recording, I sent him like yesterday, and he loved it, and we agreed to put out a 45, and that was around 2011. And then it just blossomed into a friendship, and me and Terry have a lot in common. He's from Ohio, my father's from Ohio, both of my parents are from the Midwest. I understand the whole Irish Catholic Midwest thing.
Yeah.
Him being Terry Cole and me being Kelly Finnigan. We both, his father had an immense passion for music and doo-wop and collected records. Obviously, my father was a musician. We both love music. We both really loved hip hop growing up. We just kind of have a lot in common. So over the years, we became friends, and that was really cool. And he's a close friend, and I love Terry, and it's been wonderful as someone who just appreciates people who really work hard. Terry is everything that's happened with Coal Mine is so rightfully deserved because Terry is such a hard worker and he's a talented guy. He's got great taste. He's got great ears. He's a great musician. He's a great engineer, producer. And now being able to say that we're not only a coal mine band and I'm a coal mine artist, but it's really cool to know that we really go deep in the history of the label and we're a part of kind of what helped it become what it is today. So I'm really happy for all the success Terry has, and we're just grateful to be a part of the journey.
That's wonderful. That's a great story too. There are so many stories in the music industry that don't turn out that way. It's nice to hear ones that do.
Yeah, I mean Terry was always talented. I think it really took him just making a commitment to doing it full time, because Terry was a science teacher. He was a teacher in a middle school, And that was really what he was doing full time, and he was doing the label part time. And once he made the decision to pursue the label for full time, plus he opened a record shop, an amazing record shop in a suburb of Cincinnati called Plaid Room Records that his brother owns. I mean, that's also such a cool thing. This is a family-owned label. This is a label that Terry runs. This is a record store that his brother Bob runs. They co-own the companies. You could walk in and see their mother working there, their father hanging out, another.
That's
I mean,
cool.
it's really cool, man. It's very similar to Stax, which, as people know, was like Jim Stewart and his sister-in-law,
Yeah.
Estelle Axton. And it was a family business. And I really love, just like, Motown. It's really cool. I love that aspect of coal mine.
That's wonderful. That's a great story. Look, let's play the first track that we have tonight. The first one we're going to play tonight is It's Only Us. You want to tell everybody the background to that a little bit?
Sure. It's Only Us came out in 2020. And actually, fascinating enough, this record, this is the title track off of a record called It's Only Us. Now, this record was released on March 13th, 2020. For those people who don't really, that date doesn't resonate with you, that was the date where we're all told you can't go anywhere or do anything except, go to the grocery store or go to your job if you have to. So our record came out on that date, which was really a serious blow to the gut because we'd planned this record for almost a year. That date was picked out way before we knew anything like that was going to happen. So we had to obviously cancel tours and reschedule things. But we decided to push the record out. We could have pulled it back, and we chose to put it out because we knew people needed music. And this record, It's Only Us, and this song has really proven to be a highlight for a lot of people during, as what we know was a dark time and a very difficult time for a lot of people. We're all kind of adjusting to a new way of life and a new kind of version of life, if you will. And the fact that this record brought so many people kind of distraction or, whatever you want to say, healing, however you want to look at it. It's a really cool thing when we hear these stories about how this record and this song has affected people. This song in particular has become a favorite, especially with people getting married. It's like a first dance song. It's a song people get engaged to. It's really cool, and that's why you make music, right? To affect people's lives in a positive manner.
Yeah.
So it's a beautiful thing, and I mean, it just kind of, we wrote it quick and didn't think about it too much. It's just one of those songs that happened fast and felt good, so we ran with it.
Just so you know, we have something in common. I launched my radio station in March 2020.
There you go. So you get it.
Yeah, I get it completely. They went my advertising right off the bat. Anyway, all right, let's play it for everybody. Then we can come back and talk about it a little bit more.
My heart for you.
Wow, Kelly, that's great. My take on this is a little bit different than how you introduced it. When I heard this song, I heard Felix Cavalieri and the Young Rascals.
Oh, great. I mean, yeah, Felix is great, of course. Definitely.
Yeah,
I can definitely understand that.
yeah, and that's what I heard in your singing, and also in the keyboards.
For sure. Yeah, no, I think that's a great if that's what you hear, that's cool. It makes sense.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So I mean, that's a terrific song. So,
Thank
um,
you.
let's. I want to talk about just one little aspect of this,
Sure.
and since we really do primarily talk about jazz on this show,
Hmm.
first of all, how do you create a song? Everybody does it differently. Do you write lyrics? Do you have a tune in mind? When you created this song, what was the process?
The process was we definitely went into it wanting to write a slower like mid to slow tempo song that was something that would like be somewhat deep, what some people would call deep soul, emotive very much, but not in a sense of like Otis Redding, probably more in the sense of like a Felix or a Curtis Mayfield or a Marvin Gaye.
Hmm.
Um, and then we just kind of sat down and started like working out ideas for the music.
Do you play
So the
chords?
music, the music came first, and we
Okay.
we worked on that, and then I started coming up with some melodies and different themes or concepts, if you will. So that's kind of kicking around as we work on the music, and I'm kind of trying different things and making little voice notes and making notes, writing things down, lyrics or ideas. So, but I really don't dig into that part until there's at least a good feeling about the music and the chords and the arrangement, and then I'll start to really get more detailed about words and structure and things like that.
Well, when you finish the song, how do you know it's finished?
You just know. I mean, most things I go into, I have a vision. And sometimes you get to a point and you go, well, I wanted X, Y, and Z, but I think I only need X, Y. I feel good. This feels done. So then you don't worry about it. Or sometimes, it's not that. And you have the vision of X, Y, Z. And until you get X, Y, Z, that's when you go, okay, I got the things that I needed in order to tell the story I want to tell, and it feels finished. It's kind of just like that. Making records and making music is literally a gut feeling. There's no like science to it. I mean, you can just
Mhm.
like anything else. You can definitely break it down to a science if you'd like and if that's helpful, but it really is just like it's a you're totally working like your feelings and you're basing it off all the music that you've listened to and studied and bonded with, as we like I think we all as people have certain songs that we've spent a lot of time with, and those guide your instincts. You know what I mean?
It's just interesting the way you discuss it. I've asked this question to a lot of artists. Brian Culbertson, when he was on the show, he said that when the song that we played, he said he finished it, and then about 2 weeks later, he listened to it. He said, "Oh my God, they should have horns in it." So you got a couple of horn players
Oh, well,
and
yeah, I mean,
go ahead.
sometimes that can happen. I mean, we are a band with horns, so most songs are going to have horns. You know what I mean? So, but I understand with certain artists, if you don't usually have horns in your band, then that might not be an instinct right away when you're cutting a song.
Right, right. Bruce Springsteen's known to hold on to songs for a year and redo them over and over and over. So every artist has a different way of.
Oh, no doubt. Everybody
Yeah,
is very different
yeah,
in how they do things.
yeah. So I want to talk a little bit about jazz. Um, when you start to compose the music, you know, how do you bring in the different genre elements into the song? I mean, you have a range of so many different kinds of music that the monophonics produce. So how do you decide, like in a song like this, what the instrumentation should be, what what the beat should be? I mean, how do you go about
I mean,
crafting
that's
it?
kind of one as a band, it's really can be different. Like as a band, there just has to be some trust between each other because it's like you're the drummer, you're the bass player, it's like everybody has to feel like they're able to contribute and have their voice heard musically and through their performance. So we don't get too, like hands on, or we don't talk too much about what like people are going to do or what's best. I mean, we kind of do, but we just don't try and nitpick too much um because it feels like we're all on the same page when we start this process, and we all really do have similar tastes and we like a lot of the same stuff. So it's really easy to just allow everybody to kind of find their part. And when I say that, I think that's really important because with jazz music, you know, the main part is really like the head, whatever the main chord structure is, and the main horn melody or the piano melody, guitar, whatever's taking the lead voice. But with popular music and soul music, or whatever, R&B, rock, whatever you want to say, parts are really important, because
Hmm.
parts are what establish each instrument. And one great example of how important parts are is like Motown. Motown is a great example of parts because everybody, or like James Brown band, it's like it's very disciplined. Once you have your part, that's what you play. That's what you do. There ain't no like fooling around. We're not like here to like display our chops. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? We're all here to like lay in to this song and make it the best as possible. And
yeah,
that's what we focus on is like parts.
James
Writing great
Brown. I'm
parts is
sorry.
a big is really important to song, like making great songs.
Yeah, yeah. I'm sorry to interrupt it, but I was going to say
Okay.
James Brown was so disciplined he was known to fire musicians on the stage.
He was. So was Ray Charles.
Yep, yep. If you either
There's a
play
lot
it
of
right or don't. Yeah,
I mean, I'm sure I don't know if Duke Ellington would have done something like that on stage, but band leaders don't usually have time for like people experimenting with their music. You're
yeah,
being hired to play the music the
yeah.
way it's either written on paper or the way you've rehearsed it. So, you got to like remember what your place is in the band. And when it comes to writing and making records, we feel that parts are very important. And that's actually what there's besides like the structure of the song. And like you said, picking the key of the song usually has to do with like my voice or what kind of song it is. The BPMs is like, for people who don't know, that's beats per minute, like the
Right.
tempo of the song. That usually comes like before we even start playing music. Like I said, we went into It's Only Us with an attitude of like, well, excuse me, we want to write a slower song. So we went in knowing that we want to write a faster song. We want to write a mid-tempo, 95 BPM. So we usually go into things with an idea of like that. Now, how exact that 94, 96 that number is with the tempo, you figure it out with what feels best. But yeah, a lot of these things are kind of mapped out, and some things happen spontaneous.
So I guess what you're saying is, with your band, everything's very organic because everybody,
Oh,
yeah,
I would
yeah,
say that is the best word to describe it.
yeah,
Definitely.
yeah, great. Let's go back for a minute. Let's step back to 2012 in your brain,
Yep.
and what don't you tell us a little bit? That was kind of funky, if I remember
Yeah,
correct.
that was the band really finding its identity. So with Monophonics, as you mentioned, it's like between all of us, we have such a vast, just taste and what we really love. Like we all love the same stuff, but it really is spread across the board. We all love like reggae and dub, and we love Afrobeat, and we love Latin jazz and boogaloo and funk and rock and R&B and psychedelic rock and pop. And I mean, it's like we're music lovers. And with Monophonics, one thing that was important was like for us to establish a sound that helped us become um stand out in a crowd, because at that time in 2011 2000 around 2011, when we really worked on the record, a lot of soul bands were focused on the the kind of James Brown aspect of soul and funk, having a bigger band, suits, having a name of a singer, and then like so if it was like James Brown and the Famous Flames, like there was a lot of bands doing that, like Sharon Jones and the Dap Kings.
Right.
So we wanted to make sure that we weren't just like jumping on this bandwagon. And at the time, we were listening to a lot of what people would put under the soul genre umbrella as psychedelic soul. And when you hear the word psychedelic soul, what that is like that's Sly and the Family Stone.
Right.
That's the Temptations records that were produced by Mr. Norman Whitfield, like Cloud Nine and Ball of Confusion. That's Curtis Mayfield, like if there's a hell below, we're all gonna go.
Yep.
That's Isaac Hayes, Walk
It
On
is, yeah.
By. These are all examples of psychedelic soul. And for some people, when they hear that genre, they kind of don't get it. But it's like when black artists started bringing in certain production values of rock and roll and using wah pedals and fuzz guitars and tape echo on their vocals and experimenting stylistically. That is what psychedelic soul was. And that's what really attracted us. And obviously, a big band that people know is obviously Funkadelic. And obviously,
Right.
George Clinton could be considered one of the most important musicians who helped shape psychedelic soul. So that's what we decided to do. And In Your Brain was us really showing all the different types of psychedelic soul. So you hear the Curtis Mayfield, you hear the Norman Whitfield, you hear the Isaac Hayes, you hear the George Clinton, the Norman Whitfield. It's all on there.
Yeah, that's great. Kelly, it's really great that you bring everything together like that for people, and that's what this show is about. When you have over 110,000 people already tuned into us now, so so
Nice.
I, so it's nice that everybody gets to hear, the range and the depth. A lot of artists that we have on don't go end to end, beginning to end with records, and you do it all. So you have a different perspective, and it's really refreshing to hear that. I loved a couple of the songs that were on that, In Your Brain. I mentioned, My Baby Shot Me Down, you
Yeah,
know,
Bang Bang, written by the great Sonny
yeah,
Bono for his girlfriend at the time, Cher.
share, exactly.
Obviously made a little bit more famous by Nancy Sinatra, Frank's
Yep,
daughter.
yep,
But covered by a lot of people. The song "Bang Bang," a wonderful song.
yep.
You know what? It's funny enough, man. Just like I said, how I found Terry, I was searching for music, and I came upon a really cool version by a Chinese pop singer named Betty Chung, and that is the version that truly inspired the Monophonics version.
Huh.
And when I
Okay.
heard that version, I just thought, what a great kind of way to play that song. And obviously it was sung in Chinese, and obviously it was produced in a very cool way, but it's pretty lo-fi because the recording technology in the 60s and in China, I don't know how good it was.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
it's a cool sounding record, but it doesn't sound as big as American or British records. So when I heard that, I went to the band and I said, I think it would be really cool to, you know, take use this as a springboard to kind of make our own version, and that's how that came about.
That's great. From the next one I think you did was Sound of Sinning. Is that right?
Sound of Sinning came out in 2015.
Yeah.
That was our big follow-up to, In Your Brain. So we took a little bit more of our time with that one. And, in between both records, we actually met, pardon me. We actually met a really great French singer by the name of Ben L'Oncle Soul. And we were touring out in Europe as Monophonics, promoting the In Your Brain record. And Ben happened to come to one of our shows in Paris. And he really liked what we did and how we sounded. So from about 2013 to 2015, while we were making that record, we were touring a lot in Europe, touring a lot in France, and we made a whole record with Ben as well. That's called Walk the Line. It's a very cool soul record. Some of it's, he sings some songs in French and he sings some songs in English, but it's a cool record that we got to make with him.
Well, I remember when I first listened to this Sound of Sinning, I heard so many rock influences in that. It was a totally different production than the previous one, In Your Brain.
Definitely.
So totally different. And this one, had Pink Floyd, the Zombies, and a lot of Brit rock elements in this one.
You really picked up on that. I appreciate that, because what we said with Sound of Sinning was, okay, if psychedelic soul are these Black artists, composers, producers, bands being inspired by these rock bands and these new sounds, maybe we should explore more into the bands that inspired them, like the Beatles, Pink Floyd, the Zombies, the Beach Boys, specifically, Brian Wilson and what he was doing, Phil Spector. So we definitely dove into, yes, more of a pure psychedelic rock sound, specifically from the 60s, and definitely incorporating some of that British sound.
Yeah, that's one of the things I loved about following the Monophonics and following you over the years. You don't put out 2 albums with a signature sound. If there's a signature sound, it's only the sound of that particular album. That's your signature.
For sure.
And I love that. Because people never know what's coming next. And, again, I'm just going to go back to Brian Culbertson. Brian does that. The next album LP he doesn't sound anything like the previous one.
Yeah.
And that keeps fans love that, because they never know what to expect that's going to be coming out, and it really makes everything fresh all the time. So let's play another song of yours, okay, that I really love also. Let's play Crash and Burn. How's that?
Sounds great.
Yeah, let's do that one, then we can come out. Then you get to give us the backstory on that afterwards.
Sounds good.
Let me pull it up here.
now I see light that put me in the ground. Oh, everybody wants somebody for their very own. But the devil always wins once you're sitting on the wings of his greedy throne. All I know is I live my life through the pressures of everyone's eyes. No, I never learned till it's my turn to cry and burn.
That's great. I mean, Kelly, I love that. I love the psychedelic soul that you guys bring to the table. You know,
Thank you so much.
I mean, I love it. It's such a great track, and that's from your new one, right? The newest one. That's from Stage Hotel.
Yeah, that's from Sage Motel. That one came out in May of last year, so 2022.
Yeah, well, before we get into talking about that, I wanted to just talk briefly about the next album you did after you did Sounds of Sinning. You did one in 2020, and we played one of the songs from that already. It's Only Us.
Yeah, it's only us. That was you know, very proud of that record. The one thing I'll say was like that was a tough record because between Sound of Sinning and It's Only Us, the band started losing members. And I say this in the regard of like people start to get older and they start to really realize what they want in life. And sometimes people realize that this life, this music, this journey is not for them. You know, they want a wife and kids, and they want to like go to an office or work from home, or they want routine, they want consistency, and that's hard to have. And when you choose this as your life,
Hmm.
um, so we lost some members throughout that, so that it made it a little bit difficult. I only say that from the sense of like just trying to find the right direction, but I know we did with that record. And we made a really good record. We had a new bass player on that record, so the songwriting changed a little bit. We went from having Myles O'Mahony on bass to having Max Ramey on the bass, and both great musicians, both great songwriters, but just a little bit different. And Max brought something new, and for some people, they can maybe hear that on It's Only Us. I don't know. And that was kind of the last record that we did where we had Ian McDonald on the guitar. and Ian moved on, and he's, like I said, people get married and they have children. That's really cool. We're all happy for Myles and Ian. They're doing great. So, but yeah, I mean, a lot of passion. I really took my time with that record, because, like I said, the band was changing, things were changing, my life was changing. So yeah, that's a very there's some very personal songs on there. Um, that was just there's some really special songs on there. Like Last One Standing, like you said, that's a 7-minute song, very much inspired by Move On Up by Curtis Mayfield, which is a similar length and has somewhat of a similar arrangement, slightly different. But I mean, we're huge Curtis Mayfield fans. He's one of my all-time favorites, and definitely one of my biggest influences. So yeah, that was just kind of one of those records that was a little tougher than the other ones, but ended up really shining once it came out.
Yeah, we mentioned Curtis Mayfield. I always thought as a guitarist and as a composer and as a song stylist, he was actually very underrated.
Yeah, he is.
Yeah.
When you go back and you listen to bands nationally that were making records around the time of the Impressions popularity, there was really only two types of bands. That was like, you either wanted to be James Brown or you wanted to be Curtis Mayfield. They were kind of like on each end of, like, James obviously being funky and having a big sound and more up-tempo dance tunes, and Curtis writing these slower love songs, but also writing these really powerful, kind of social commentary, talking
Yes.
about civil rights and talking about, the
Drugs.
situation going on in America with civil rights and being a black person in America, what that was like. Curtis really was really good at balancing the social commentary with writing great love songs. He was really brilliant in that way.
Yeah. Also, the Pusher Man. He
Well,
wrote
yeah,
about
once he
drugs.
got into his solo thing and started exploring, yeah, he definitely pushed the envelope big time.
Yeah. Yeah. He did, and you guys do too. And that's what I love about the way you do music. We're starting to run out of time, and I want to spend a little bit more time talking about a few other things. So before we play the last song of the night for you, I have a question. If you
Sure.
could record along a song with any artist from any period, who would that be and why?
Um, let's see. That's really, really hard. Gosh. I guess I would say recording a song with Willie Mitchell at Royal Studios in Memphis during the time period where he was making all those great records with Al Green and Ann Peoples. Um, that would probably be who I'd go with. Willie Mitchell was like a really wonderful trumpet player and musician and band leader in Memphis in the 60s. And he was making records for High Records, which was kind of more of a country label, really. And he turned that label around, and he kind of like pushed them into this R&B field, and really kind of took control and became the engineer, became the producer, helped write songs. And he's definitely an artist, along with, it's hard because there's also Rick Hall, who was, a part of Fame and did Muscle Shoals. So those are two guys that I really look at that are very inspiring, because, like you said at the beginning of the show, it's like they're really there from the conception of the song till the end when the record gets pressed. And that's really like where I'm at, and that's how I like to do things. I'm a songwriter. I'm someone who has the vision. I know how to produce it. I know how to arrange it. I know what musicians to hire. I know how to put it together. I know how to make records. So those two guys, Willie Mitchell, I'm just going to go with Willie. That would be my answer. He was phenomenal.
That's a great answer. And have you guys ever produced a Southern Soul recording?
Not like a true Southern Soul
Yeah.
recording.
Yeah, I was just curious because Mitchell did.
Oh yeah, he was a
Yeah.
master at it. we were lucky as a band. We got to go visit Royal Studios in Memphis on Willie Mitchell Way, and see the studio and just soak up some of that mojo. It was incredible.
Yeah, that's terrific. Let's play the last song tonight, Kelly, and then we'll just wrap up and talk about a few things for a few minutes. So the last one I want to play is one again that you wrote, and I thought it was your own LP, but I guess
my own LP. It's off my solo LP that came out in 2019 called "The Tales People Tell."
Yeah, and this is "I Don't Want to Wait."
I Don't Want to Wait. Yep.
Okay, so let me play this for everybody, then we'll kind of wrap up together.
Wonderful thing. Oh, lift me up, oh, baby. Ooh, I don't wanna wait for your love. I don't wanna wait for your love. I say it again. I don't wanna wait for your love. No, baby, no. I don't wanna wait for your love.
Wonderful, Kelly. You know, I don't want to beat a dead horse, but I hear so much of the Rascals and Felix Cavalieri in your
Thanks,
music.
man. I appreciate that.
I really do. You know, look, I have somebody. We got a comment here, by the way, from Ron Ledford. Can you see it?
Yeah, I can. Thank you, Ron.
I don't know if you, yeah, I don't know if you know who Ron is. Ron manages Beth. Beth tours with Kem. Beth is a great songstress. She's been on my show, and she's usually the opening for Kem, and that does backgrounds for Chem also.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much. I appreciate that.
Yeah. So Ron just checked in with a little comment for you. Well, look, I know you got music to do tonight. Let's just wrap up. Is there anything you want to leave your fans with? You have 197,000 people tonight, so I'm sure you made a lot more fans tonight. Anything you want to
that's
leave?
Wonderful. Well, first off, I'd like to thank you, Mel, for having me on the show and giving me this platform and this opportunity to talk about myself and Monophonics and the music. That's what it's all about. So thank you, and for what you do. And Monophonics, like I said, we got 2 more shows after tonight. We're in Pittsburgh, playing in about an hour and 15 minutes here at the Thunderbird. Tomorrow night we'll be at the Black Cat in DC, and then at the Brooklyn Bowl in Brooklyn, New York. Then we head home. We still have shows, Monophonics that is. We have shows in San Diego at the Belly Up, or at the El Rey in LA in November. We're at Soho House in Santa Barbara, the Independent in San Francisco on November 11th. So you can find us in California touring around. I'm going to be making my next solo record for Coal Mine Records next month, and I'll be recording that throughout the rest of this year and finishing up at the top of next year. And so you'll hear some new music from me. As we know, it's coming up at the end of the year, which means it's almost Christmas time. I encourage everybody to please check out my Christmas record called The Joyful Sound, which I released in 2020. I'm very proud of that record. It's kind of a Christmas record for people who don't love Christmas music, because there's no White Christmas, there's no Santa Claus is coming to town, there's no covers. I didn't do any Christmas covers. They're all original Christmas songs. Besides a couple songs which I made, interpolations of. The Sacred Four, which was a great gospel group out of North Carolina. They had a song called Somebody's Watching You, and I changed it to Santa's Watching You. So okay. If you dig soul music and you dig Christmas music, please check out A Joyful Sound. Just keep a lookout for Kelly Finnigan and for Monophonics, because we definitely don't plan on slowing down anytime soon.
Kelly, it's been a wonderful evening. I can't thank you enough for taking the time to be with us tonight.
Thank you,
you made a lot of new fans, and I hope we can have you back again in the near future.
Yeah, I hope so too. We'll stay connected, and when the next record comes out, we'll definitely have to chat again.
Absolutely. Next week we're going to have a terrific vocalist, Patrice Isley, who just like you came from a musical family. Her dad was Ron Isley.
Well, there you go. Then she's got really, really good genes.
Yeah, she can scale 5 octaves.
I'm not surprised. I'm a huge Isley Brothers fan.
Yeah. So she's on for next week. So again, you have a great evening. Have a great tour.
You as well.
And it's been a real pleasure, Kelly. I appreciate it a lot.
Thank you, Mel, and thank you to everybody.